So I often speak out against Christianity and religions and God in general because I see it as harmful nonsense. And people question me, well, what's so harmful about it? You're always just saying harmful nonsense. You never really explain it. What's so bad about it? The nonsense part comes with just the lack of evidence. We have no reason to believe that this God is real or any of this supernatural stuff is real. From an outsider's perspective, it just looks like you're believing in fairy tales and myths and dedicating your lives to this thing. It's a bit nonsensical. Why is it harmful? For a lot of reasons. We can look back at history and see some of the harm it's done. The Salem witch trials, the Inquisition, the Crusades, the Rwandan genocide, and just other instances where Christianity has been forced on a new nation or a new people, often violently and through bloodshed. It hasn't always been spread through all peaceful, loving means, somebody preaching on a street corner and turning people's hearts to God. No, there's been some blood. And there are some of the instances that I've mentioned and, others where people have murdered in the name of God, in the name of religion, and in the name of protecting this world from evil and sin, even though we have It's nonsense. We have no reason to believe any of it's real, like the Salem witch trials. They weren't witches. There wasn't anything demonic going on. At least we don't have any evidence for that, but we still murdered them anyway because God. Meanwhile, people don't go around committing harm in the name of spreading atheism, defending atheism. Atheists can still do terrible things, but it's not the atheism that drives them to it. Whereas the belief in a God, and not just Christianity, but the belief in other gods, can and has led people to do many harmful things that they wouldn't otherwise do without it. Other everyday issues that we see is Christianity's attack on LGBTQ plus people, who are an innocent group of people. And I would encourage you to find anything that we can say against the LGBTQ plus community that doesn't involve ignorance and bigotry. And when I say ignorance and bigotry, something that doesn't involve, well, that's what my religion says, and something that doesn't involve ignorance and misunderstanding. Because that's all the arguments that I get against the LGBTQ plus community have things like that. There's no good arguments that I've heard. I don't know. I guess we just can't let the innocent group of people just be themselves or whatever. It's an attack on women. The idea that women are inferior to men and should be subjective to men and shouldn't have the rights over their own bodies. Abortion restrictions have already killed some women who have had miscarriages and haven't been able to get access to care to stop the miscarriage from taking them with it because there's procedures to fix miscarriages that are also used in abortions. But when there's abortion bans, we can't use those procedures anymore. So the woman goes down with the ship even though she shouldn't have to. And that's just a small part of it. It's just a violation of bodily autonomy, a violation of basic human rights, and it's just wrong. There's this idea that we are worthless, that we are nothing without God, that we are just dirty, rotten sinners, just filthy rags, that just need God, otherwise we are nothing. Because that's a great thing to teach kids. You're worthless, little Timmy. That's why you need Jesus. There's also just this really messed up idea. I got this a lot in my Christian upbringing. Look at the crucifix. Look at all that Jesus did and suffered and died, and you're just going to go and sin? You're just going to say that you don't want to go to Mass? Look at what he did for you. It's manipulation. Huge psychological toll that takes place, especially on children, especially people who are raised in this. It can cause a lot of mental health issues, and it does cause a lot of mental health issues. There's the othering, as I call it. See, the Bible doesn't specifically say, like, oh, you should completely shun and shit on the non-believers. It kind of hints at it here and there, but I'm not saying that the Bible does that. But there is this idea that Christians get, whether they should or not, just human nature. When you're told that you're special and that the almighty, all-powerful special being of the universe is on your side, you tend to get a little bit of an inflated ego that makes you think that you are better than others and makes you look down on others and makes you shit on others, makes you treat others more poorly. And that's just human nature. That's just a slippery slope that takes off with human nature. That religion, that Christianity, doesn't exactly promote, but doesn't exactly do anything to stop. Speaking of the LGBTQ plus community, a lot of Christians like to say we need to protect our children. Protect our children from the LGBTQ plus people who are preying on our children, even though we're not. We're really not. Of course, there are a few predators, because unfortunately, predators come in every shape, size, color, and creed you can think of. But overall, we're not coming after your children. But you know who is coming after your children? A lot of pastors and priests and a lot of members of your own congregation who get protected by a lot of Christians and protected by the church, by the local church, the denominations as a whole, the whole Christian community, global Christian community as a whole. So protecting our children doesn't matter, like, in those instances, but it's definitely because we're being ignorant bigots, we'll definitely keep blaming the LGBTQ plus people. There's the fear. Because I've heard a lot in my upbringing. Yes, the Bible says fear the Lord, but that's not what it means. It really means like respect and, know your place, know that he's better. No, it's fear. Read the Bible, it's fear. Love me or I'll torture you for all of eternity, or let you be tortured for all of eternity with a system that I set up, so technically it's me anyway, is fear. Don't question your beliefs, because you might end up straying away from your faith, and that might lead to eternal damnation, and we might lose you, and Satan might take you, and all this stuff. That's fear. That is fear, and that can also have a very damaging impact on people's lives. And it has. I would encourage you to go and research any of the things that I've said, and go research other things, because I haven't mentioned all of the harmful things that Christianity has done and continues to do to individuals and societies. And even now, in the United States, we see more Christian influence laws being pushed on the general public, written into local, state, and federal legislation, to where freedom of religion is just kind of going away, because freedom of religion is the right to follow or not follow any religion of your choosing. So when you start having Christian influence laws forced on the general public, I don't know. I think the whole Constitution has gone down the toilet at this point, but I won't get too political and get into that right now. There's also the pain and heartbreak when you're a Christian and someone you love leaves the faith. You're just so devastated and you're so heartbroken. You're crying, you're praying. It's not a bad thing that they leave the faith. Arguably, I of course would argue, I'm sure some of you have seen the rest of my content, it's a good thing to walk away from the faith, but you're devastated and heartbroken because you've been taught that it's just the worst thing that you could ever do. There is harm in Christianity that I've mentioned here, that I haven't mentioned here, so much that I haven't even mentioned here. Put in the comments if you have any other things that I didn't mention on ways that Christianity is harmful. But just to say, when I talk about the harmful nonsense of Christianity, that's what I'm talking about. It's stuff that hurts people that we have no reason to believe in, and it just kind of looks like it's all nonsense and fairy tales and magic, and it's ridiculous, and I'm going to keep speaking out against it.